just need to cash my check, that's all. No,
Hi everyone, welcome to Smack Reviews. If you love our honest reviews, smack that subscribe button so you never miss out. When I first saw the trailer for Straw, it didn't feel like your typical Tyler Perry movie since most of his films center around family dynamics, the drama between relatives, and sometimes even between complete strangers. But this looked different. It felt darker, slightly psychological, and because Tyler Perry steps outside of his usual comfort zone, Straw stands out from everything he's done in recent years. What's most impressive is that this movie was filmed in only 4 days. You can kinda tell since the scenes are confined to just a handful of locations, but that's besides the point. This video is going to be filled with spoilers since I feel it's difficult to talk about this movie without doing so. So let's get into what this movie was about.
So the plot revolves around Janiyah Wilkinson, played by Taraji P. Henson, and I need to say right now that the reason that this movie was even watchable is because of Taraji herself. She gave it her all this performance from her explosive outbursts of frustration and fear. She gave the character a sense of inner conflict and vulnerability in a way that honestly, if it was anybody else that was casted, I really don't think that this movie would have worked. Most of the casting and acting from everyone was spot on for the most part, and I was surprised about one of the casting, which was Sinbad, in which he played as a homeless man. He wasn't really an integral part of the movie, but it's just crazy to see how much he's aged over the years. As far as the plot goes, the film opens with a flashback of Janiyah carrying her daughter Arya through a hospital hallway. Then she wakes up in her apartment with Arya by her side. Within the first few minutes, it's clear to see just how much Janiyah is struggling both emotionally and financially. Her apartment doesn't even have AC, she's behind on rent, raising Arya on her own, and driving a car that barely starts. It's genuinely sad to watch, especially knowing that there are many people out there who are going through some or even all of what Janiyah is facing. She quickly gets her daughter ready for school, drops her off, and heads to her job as a cashier at a grocery store. Aside from a few exceptions, nearly everyone in this movie mistreats her or disrespects her. It gets to the point where it feels like life or even the entire world is actively working against her. Her boss, in particular, is probably one of the worst people in this movie. There's a scene where a customer tries to use a WIC card to buy alcohol, but Janiyah prevents them from doing so, and so they get angry and throw it at her feet. Instead of her boss maybe saying something to the customer or checking if she's okay, he just continues yelling at her. That part was pretty frustrating to watch. Janiyah ends up getting a call from Arya's school that she needs to show up to drop off some lunch money, and she ends up needing to ask her boss if she can go, and this of course makes her boss mad. He allows her to go if she promises to return within 30 minutes, but from here everything in Janiyah's life starts to spiral. She can't get money from the ATM, arrives at her daughter's school too late, and watches as social services take Arya away. On her way back to work, she cuts off an off-duty cop who pit maneuvers her and threatens her life. When she finally returns, her boss fires her and refuses to hand over her last paycheck. She comes home to find she's been evicted, her belongings soaked in the rain. The only thing she manages to save is her daughter's clear backpack with her medication and science project. She returns to her job to beg for her check, but while in the office, 2 armed robbers storm in. When they try to take her backpack, she fights back, grabs a gun, and shoots one of them while the other flees. Then her boss accuses her of setting it all up. When he calls the cops, Janiyah, completely pushed past her limit, shoots him too. It's a dark moment, but one that, given everything she's been through, was satisfying to watch. He was overly cruel to her for no reason. She takes her check and heads to the bank to cash it in. This is where the remainder of the movie takes place, inside the bank. Janiyah still has the gun and is demanding that they cash her final paycheck. The bank employees assume she's trying to rob the place, which isn't her intention at all. I'll admit, this part leaned a bit on the silly side. Remember her daughter's science project? The bank manager, while calling the police, sees it through the clear backpack and mistakes it for a bomb. And honestly, I get it. At first glance, it kind of looks like one, but seriously, what kind of science project was that?
The police quickly surround the building. Janiyah knows this is all one big misunderstanding, but no one else sees it that way. To make matters worse, she sees on the news that one of the officers outside is the same off-duty cop who threatened to quote-unquote legally kill her. As the situation escalates, she ends up holding some of the people in the bank hostage. Not because she wants to hurt anyone, but because she truly has no idea how she's going to make it out of this alive. Throughout the rest of the film, she communicates with Detective Raymond, played by the Tiana Taylor, who becomes the only person to truly understand that Janiyah isn't a criminal. Raymond sees through the chaos and recognizes that this was just a series of misfortunes and misunderstandings that spiraled out of control. Detective Raymond ends up dealing with the aggressive officer and eventually convinces Janiyah to surrender peacefully. Janiyah is taken into custody, and then the movie just ends. It's an abrupt finish that left me a bit disappointed. I really wanted to see more, whether she would finally get the help she clearly needed, or if the system would fail her again and sentence her to prison. Despite the sudden ending, the film throws in one last twist. The flashback we saw earlier of Janiyah in the hospital, it turns out her daughter actually died the night before. That whole moment and several scenes we saw afterward were just hallucination. Right before Janiyah surrenders, we're shown those same beginning scenes again, but this time from the perspective of the people around her. We see the confusion on their faces as Janiyah talks or waves to someone who isn't there, and it reveals just how badly she was grieving and the state of her mental health over the death of her daughter, that she imagined her as an 8-year-old girl when the sad reality is that she didn't reach that age. Since Janiyah was hallucinating, it does also make you wonder for us as the viewer, what was and wasn't real. For example, there was a crowd of people that showed up outside the bank that showed support for Janiyah to be freed. While I believe it was real, but this twist was genuinely surprising, especially coming from Tyler Perry. While I've never found Tyler Perry's movies or shows to be anything groundbreaking, I do think Straw is one of his best works in recent years. The hardships Janiyah goes through kept me engaged, and Taraji's performance is what really held it all together, and it made me stick around just to see how her story would end. That said, once the film gets to the bank, the pacing starts to drag, and I really wish we got to see what happened to Janiyah after she was taken into custody. I think Straw is worth watching. I'd love to see Tyler Perry continue making more films like this, but knowing his track record, this might just be a one-time experiment before he goes back to his usual formula. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, comment, and please subscribe. Bye!